Everybody, TC Bradley, host of God Made Millionaire TV, the hottest show on television. And I've been waiting all week for you, yes you, to stop on by and watch our show. And what a show we've got lined up for you. Waiting on set, we have Dr. Ann Arvizu. Dr. Ann is a pharmacist and former Fortune 500 global biotech executive turned entrepreneur, speaker, and author. Since 2009, her programs have enrolled thousands of executives who are making the break from corporate to freedom to pursue their God-given dreams. She left corporate America and built her own seven-figure company in the toughest of times. She's an incredible leader, and she's waiting for us on set. So without any further ado, let's crack open the vault and let's get our show started. Dr. Ann, welcome to the show.
TC, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Dr. Ann, I'm honored that you've chosen to come on our show today. I'm so excited. You are a doctor, and what are you a doctor of?
Doctor of Pharmacy, a PharmD.
I have never heard of that before now.
That's funny. I get that all the time. It's a pharmacist, basically. Have you heard of a pharmacist?
Right, I've heard of that.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, it went straight to the PharmD program, but I was one of the last pharmacists that graduated with the bachelor's degree and then had to go on for my doctorate, an additional 3 more years.
Wow, so how many years of schooling did it take to get this accomplishment?
Total, it took me 11 years. I have 2 bachelor's degrees and my doctorate.
Wow, now how did you choose pharmacy?
I chose pharmacy. My brother's a pharmacist, and I was actually planning to go to law school, and it was back in the 80s when LA Law was on, and I loved that. I was also a lifeguard, and I loved lifeguarding. I loved helping people. I loved healing people. I loved making sure people were safe. So it was really more natural for me to go into a medical profession. And I started to volunteer in several hospitals, and pharmacy became the niche that was the road that I decided to go down.
Wow, and you've transitioned into the business world, very successful businesswoman, I might add. Let's talk a little bit about your business background.
Okay, well, when I was graduating from pharmacy school, I knew that I wanted to get into the pharmaceutical industry. It was just something that I knew. I wanted to be in clinical research, in development. I wanted to find cures for things, and I wanted to go into that business segment and into a big company. I wanted to be part of that global behemoth and learn all the business that I could. But everybody said you can't do it. I literally typed up about 120 resumes, and I went door to door, if you will, in Pennsylvania to various pharmaceutical companies and left my typed up, remember typewriters, TC?
Right.
Had to roll them in there and get the white out when you made a mistake. I had to type them up and I sent them out, and finally I got an internship and I made my way into the pharmaceutical industry. At first I had that internship, and then that led to a full-time job.
Right, so everybody told you you couldn't do what you went ahead and did.
Of course.
Right, and you didn't let that stop you.
Not at all.
Right. Tell me about your background growing up. Tell me about that story.
I grew up in East Goshen, Pennsylvania, and I was a normal kid. In high school, I became a lifeguard. I loved that. Spent many summers at the Y and had a wonderful childhood.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
At first, I wanted to be a lawyer, but then it transitioned into medical very fast.
So take us back into the pharmacy side when you got with the big corporate giant. Walk us through that process of how you started your own business at some point?
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Yes, so for 6 years, I worked in clinical research and development for SmithKline Beecham and then GlaxoSmithKline.
Some big names.
Yeah, some big names, and it was some big jobs. It was really great to run global clinical studies. Then I transitioned and moved to Miami because I was given a director role for Latin America. So I was able to handle 36 countries and also handle the medical affairs, medical communications, medical information initiatives and build out for GlaxoSmithKline after it merged, after Glaxo and SmithKline merged.
Wow, wow. What was the secret of your success in that company? I mean, how did this all happen?
I think one of my secrets to success is persistence. It's just always just saying, I'm going to do the right thing, being a person of integrity, having values that drive the right motives for what I have to do and what I have to say. And people appreciate that. And that's what they see in terms of leadership. Leadership, anybody will follow a leader that has the right heart, the right value set, the right skill set, and the right mindset.
I believe, Dr. Ann, that people are hungry for leadership, authentic leadership. And I think so many people in this marketplace that we're in now, they get hung up on the marketing. Right? What we were talking about earlier, funnels and,
yes.
and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, you know, what people really want to do business with and who they want to do business with is a leader. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And people are hungry for leaders now more than ever before. And we need more leaders to come into the fold.
Well, what about women leaders? Because, I mean, let's talk about this back then. Was that a male-dominated industry, or is that, were you a trailblazer in that industry with rising through the ranks the way you did?
I was a trailblazer, actually. In my department, when I first got into clinical research and development, I was the first woman who was a pharmacist that was able to take a first global study. So my first study was a global study with 2 arms, pharmacokinetics, pharmacoeconomics, and nobody else knew how to do that. But because I inched my way into that department in that year, I humbled myself. I started off as a document specialist. I was then, given a little bit of an upgrade to clinical scientist and then global clinical study leader, all within 6 months, because people can see your heart, your drive, and what you know. It always doesn't start out like, oh, you're not just going to jump into your dream job or even create your dream business right away.
Right.
There's a little bit of a willingness that you can bring
pay
something
your dues,
to the
right?
table. You got to pay your dues.
You got to pay your dues. When did you transition into your own company?
In 2004, after the merger and the acquisition of 49 to 51% takeover, right? So it was a kinder, gentler merger, if you will. But we created that one office in the Miami area, and within about 18 months, that office was going to be taken away. So everybody was given jobs somewhere else. And it was during that time that something was starting to stir in me. I knew that I wanted to start my own initiative. I knew that I was tired with the bureaucracy of a big company and that I wanted to create a medical communications firm for the right drug to the right patient at the right time. So medical information in its purest sense. So I did that. And from 2004 to about 2007, I had mega success. Within my first year, I probably made about $350,000. It was really like, hey, this is great. But that's not take-home pay, as you know, in a business when you're paying staff. That's like just the beginning of a scalable business. So I was so grateful with the success that I had in the first few years of my business. Plus, I learned that you have to become the person that runs the business. So I did every coaching, training program, leadership program that there was out there. I walked on fire. I, jumped off a trapeze. I did the whole 9 yards at all of these great big events that some of the top names out there. All those events, they just kind of help continue the process of shoring up your mindset, your value set, and your skill set. So I learned to be a better entrepreneur. I learned to be a better business person as well as a scientist who knew what she was doing, but now I had to run the business.
All right, Dr. Ann, how in the world do you transition from corporate America into the mindset of an entrepreneur and hit it out of the park and become a mega success? There are women right now that are watching this show, and they're right where you were, in that dream job, what they think is a dream job, and they're in that corporate structure, but they feel that yearning, that burning within inside them, that to go out into the deep waters and start their own business. And here you are, you've done that, but you're at the top of the food chain in that industry, and you left it. You left.
I did.
At the top of the food chain to start your own business. And what is the mindset that you had to have to make that happen?
The initial mindset that I had when I started RXCR Communications was, I have a dream that, right? I think that's the answer, TC. I saw a better world. I saw a better way of doing business in that niche that I was in at that time. That was back in 2004, of course. But the same way that I started my second company this past year, it's the same story. You have to know deep inside that you're, number one, called and meant to do that. I felt very called. In fact, I was in Puerto Rico on a business trip, and I like to joke. I don't know if it was the great Puerto Rican coffee, nice and strong in the morning, 5 in the morning, but I was up and I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna get ready for my business trip. I start my day with prayer. I have my quiet time, and then I let ideas flow in, because we have to be a receptor to what are those ideas that are coming down. That could be that $1 million idea. All of a sudden, before going into the office, and I was still with GlaxoSmithKline, I wrote down 22 pages. Like, I scribbled, I couldn't even write fast enough. I wrote my logo out, I wrote the name of the company, and I basically had a plan. When I came back to Miami, I spoke with someone who was working at a consulting firm at the time. And I said, is this a model for a consulting advisory for large businesses? And he said, it's perfect. And I said, wow, okay. So when you feel like God's behind it, it's really easy to say, I have wind beneath my wings, and let's just go.
Inside the heart of each and every one of us lies a dream, a purpose we were put here on this planet to fulfill, a God-given mission. And when we tap into it, God will unleash unbelievable blessings over our lives, from our family to our finances. T.C. Bradley's new book, God Made Millionaire, will help you bring the abundant riches of the kingdom to all aspects of your life. Order God Made Millionaire today.
Hey everybody, T.C. Bradley, host of God Made Millionaire TV, and I was thinking the other day of how my life was profoundly impacted and changed for the better when I published my first book, Supernatural Success. Within 45 days of publishing that book, I signed a major TV deal to feature and promote my book on that TV show. After that, I published another book, got invited back to another TV show. If you're watching this video, listen. You've been given a God-given dream to publish a book. He's given you an assignment to do, and like me, you want to try to talk yourself out of it. I didn't talk myself out of it, and my life was profoundly changed. I want to help you publish your book. If you've been given a God-given dream, an assignment to publish your book, well, we have a publishing company designed specifically from A to Z to handle all of those details for you. All you need to do right now at this point is set an appointment up with our publishing company so that we can talk to you about bringing your book to the marketplace and your voice to the nations on our show, God Made Millionaire TV, as a published author. I think the reality is that in the society that we live in, we are busier than we've ever been. We're more connected to people, but we're more disconnected. And I think even in my own life, Dr. Ann, that for me, I don't know how you do a business without prayer. I don't know how that happens. And I think with media and TV, it is so busy, it is so fast-paced, that I've got to literally force myself to stop and have that alone time.
Yes.
You know, have that prayer time and commune. And that's when these ideas and these creative ideas will flow into you. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And if you don't have that foundation at your core, and you know, in my world, we've talked before, CORE is an acronym. It stands for being centered, open, resilient, and energized. If you don't have those 4 main qualities at your core, in the center of all you do, which is where God is, right? It's our body, mind, spirit.
No, I love it. I love everything about that. I want to talk a little bit more, since we're on the mindset.
Yep.
I want to talk about this book that you recently published here, Affluent Minds, Core, you touched on that.
Yes.
Core Expressions for a Rich and Wonderful Life. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On this. But let's talk about what inspired you to write this book?
Thank you, TC. There's a couple of parts to Affluent Minds. First of all, you'll see a quote from me in it. Affluence is our birthright. And we have such a poverty mentality, especially among the church.
Right.
And that is not biblical. So what I did is created Affluent Minds as an acrostic, right? So each word brings you the mindset of affluence based on principles that God wants for you. For example, A is for affluent. If I said, oh, TC is affluent, somebody might say, oh, that means he's got a lot of money. But that's not it at all. Affluence is the dance between giving and receiving. And affluent, in the archaic definition of the word, meant a flow of water. And when we allow ourselves to receive from our core, from the still small voice, then we act on it. The second part of the book are the disciplines you need to act on it. The third part of the book is your matter, your moxie, and your muse. And that really is a kind of a terminology for body, mind, spirit. What is really lighting you up from within? And how do you get out of the mindset when it's bogged down, or when you're sleeping at night and the words come in, oh, you're nothing, you're not, you're too fat, you're too small, you're too tall, you're too whatever, you're too old, you can't do this. It is never too late. I'm gonna get vulnerable with you, right? It's not all up, up, up. It's not all glory to glory, and I know that sometimes people expect that. There are setbacks that set you up for something greater later if you don't give up. I lost everything in my business at one point. Nobody really knows this because we always talk about how we've achieved, and that's what we're trained to do. But at one point, I went to rock bottom, TC. I lost everything, and it was 2008. 2008, you remember, there was a giant recession in this country.
Right.
We had a real estate bubble that burst. And Florida, where I live, was one of the hardest hit areas of the nation. At that time, when we were losing everything, we lost our house. We lost an apartment that we kept for my in-laws. We lost my schnauzer. My mother-in-law died. And my husband was deciding to get a job because he was losing his job in Miami. He got a job up in Pennsylvania, the one place that where I grew up, I didn't want to go back. And I was like, come on, God, what could get worse? Well, what got worse is then I went through a major health crisis. I went through infertility and early menopause, which is a premenopausal disorder. And it wasn't my time yet. I was in my 30s. And we're supposed to know that we're going to bear fruit. So that was really hard for me. And it was in those moments, we moved across the country to Pennsylvania. And what could I say? I just decided, I don't know why I'm here, but I trust you. And I'm going to bloom where I'm planted. And so we did. 2009 came around. I started my company back. I had gotten a few more contracts. I just, it wasn't quite flatline. The blip, blip came back again. And there I was back in business. I did a DBA in Pennsylvania for RxCR, and I was back in business.
Dr. Ann, let's talk a little bit. It's a perfect transition into what has God called you to do in this season that we find ourselves in?
This season is that, TC. This is such a time as this. And this is a time that I see myself standing with a catcher's mitt. And I am ready for those women to come over and say, I have had enough. Everyone I talk to, my clients are VPs in major companies. You've heard some of the list, Glaxo, Pfizer, et cetera. And they are, I'm so tired on Monday. I don't want to do this anymore. The pandemic of burnout has been around for a long time. Corporate burnout, healthcare burnout, other pharmacists and physicians like me, other healthcare workers who have been forced into being there for us as essential workers. People are ready to go virtual. People are ready to build a business that's going to be sustainable. And I feel like it's my time finally, 11 years later, after I've built this company and then put it on hold for a little while to deal with some health issues, it's the time. We were already replanning the launch of this company last year.
Right.
We started on our way.
You talked about burnout. Let's talk about burnout. How big of a problem is that in corporate America right now? It's
a giant multi-billion dollar problem. It drains the healthcare system. It drains people of their health, which is the most important. You can't really have wealth or build a sustainable business if your health isn't right first. So your health, which is part mental health and part physical health, really they're intertwined. There is a mind-body connection. We know that from psychoneuroimmunology.
Right, right. Talk a little bit about the challenges specifically that women executives are facing today in the workplace.
They are still hitting against that old proverbial, I call it now, granite ceiling, right? The C-suite finally has a few women in it in biotech and in pharma, but it's still few and far between. And there's still a major pay gap in terms of earning for women, being paid less on the dollar than their male counterparts. It's even worse now for women of color. And that's something that, for gender parity, that needs to end. And I think that women need to value themselves from the inside out, from their core, and gather their strength and their power inside, knowing that they too are a Proverbs 31 woman.
All right, so who's your ideal client? Let's talk about that. Who's your ideal coaching client?
The tired, burned out executive that says, I'm done. I've either lost my job this year, or I have gone and been forced into early retirement, or I just want to quit my day job and go build my business. So what I do is help them build their business, balance their life, and leave their legacy, because you have to be the person that does the business.
And how do you do that? Tell us a little bit about your coaching program.
Yes, the Corpreneur Academy is a 3-part program. It helps you not only build your business in terms of all the how. You know, entrepreneurs get stuck up in the how all the time. How do I do that? I don't have any money. No, but you have an idea. So what resources do you have? Because you have time right now, and time could let you write a book. Time could let you get your brilliance out there in some way, right?
Right.
So there's ways that we show people what do you have right now, and we make the impossible into I am possible.
Right.
That's the first part. The second part is you will learn to become a full certified coach. You'll also learn to be a certified consultant and go and create the types of 7-figure contracts that I've done. And I teach people now how to do the same, because I've done that sustainably. But I feel like what I'm called to do right now is develop the next generation.
Right. Dr. Ann, we're almost out of time. You have to promise me you're going to come back and see me. But before you go, I want to give you an opportunity now. This is a very important moment in time for you, because I believe God has called you and anointed and equipped you for this season that we find ourselves in. So many people are right now, I know they're watching with tears in their eyes going, that's me. She's speaking my language. So what I want you to do, Dr. Ann, is I want you to take your time. I want you to speak into that camera to over 200 nations, to people, that word of hope, of encouragement to these people that are listening, that desperately need it in the season that we find ourselves in.
The word hope that TC just mentioned is synonymous with the word expectation. Your worth is far above rubies. You are valuable, and you have something to give to this world. Each and every one of you have a call and a purpose. It might not be obvious right now, but I would ask you, if I could help you in some way, let me help you. But don't give in to the chaos, the overwhelm, the resistance, and the exhaustion that this world will put on your shoulders. Take it off, and from your core, become centered, open, resilient, and energized. Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom of God and all of its righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto you. That's the center of the wheel, TC. That's why I know it's powerful.
Amen. Amen, sis. Will you come back and see me, Dr. Ann?
I would love to.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, TC.
Hey everybody, can you believe we are at the end of another show? And what a show we had lined up for you tonight. You know, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite sayings that I have is, God doesn't need Netflix in heaven for entertainment when He's got T.C. Bradley for entertainment. He messes with me all the time, and I argue with God all of the time. One afternoon, my life was profoundly changed when I was in my office minding my own business when God spoke to my heart. And he said, son, you're not playing big enough. And I'm like, God, what are you talking about? I'm not playing big enough. I think I've been playing really big. And he said, son, your definition of playing big and my definition of playing big are two different definitions. And then he laid out some areas in my life where I had played it safe. I had played it small, and I called it wisdom. And I said, God, I see what you're saying. And I made a sacred vow to my God that afternoon in my office. I said, God, I'll never limit what you want to do in my life or through my life for the rest of my life. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a sacred vow. 9 months go by. God had set me up because 9 months later, I was faced with an opportunity to do a national TV show that turned into what you're seeing tonight on your screen, God Made Millionaire TV. I was called out to the deep waters by our God. God had set me up 9 months previous when he challenged me not to go small in my life and to go to the deep waters in my life. If you want to change your life tonight and you're serious about changing your life tonight, I challenge you, yes you, right now, to make a sacred vow to your God to not limit what he wants to do in your life or through your life for the rest of your life. But don't just say it just to say it, sweet pea. You've got to say it like you mean it. And you watch what your God will do in your life. You watch what your God will do. You're not called to play small. You're called to go to the deep waters where your God awaits for you. All right, everybody, I got to get out of here. My producers are telling me we're just about out of time, but we never leave this show without throwing up our shades and hitting our music and doing our prosperity dance. So get your shades on at home, get some attitude going on, and Big Mike, hit my music. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, God Made Millionaire is not just a financial show. God Made Millionaire is going to be the launching pad for dreams, specifically God-given dreams. God has given me this platform, not just for me, but for you, to give you a platform where you can come and share with the nations, over 200 nations, 93 million homes, that dream that God has given you. You're going to be able to share it to the nations on the God Made Millionaire TV show, Sunday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the Word Network.